So Nicholas has said a lot already. I don't know if I have any more words to say after everything that he has said the whole day. But I'm going to be doing business modeling, which is a whole different concept in business that you guys, I'm sure some of you are familiar with, some of you are not. But let's see by the show of hands, how many of you are familiar with business modeling? Nobody. Come on, you should know something. Business model? Not whole of it. What do you know about business modeling so far?
What did we know?
Yeah.
About the demands and this combinations of demand and the support. Yeah.
Okay, so my job is gonna be a little bit difficult if most people don't know much about it. I thought it was gonna be easy. But before I get into it, I'd like to do a little bit of an introduction because I don't know who I'm dealing with here, if you don't mind. A little bit about myself. You have the notes about me already. You have the notes already about me, so I don't have to do that. Do I have to? No. So then, no, just to give you a little bit of an introduction, I'm from South Africa, but I'm currently working and living in Germany at the University of Mannheim, at the Institute for Mittelstandsforschung. I'm sure you know what is Mittelstandsforschung is already. Nicholas probably has already said that 1,000 times. It's an SMME, small medium enterprises. When it comes to research, I do research about emerging economies, research, more so in entrepreneurship. So that's what I do. So getting back to the content of today, business modeling, as you guys said, you don't know much about it. I'll try and explain it as much as possible, but I would love to at least have some interaction within the group. I mean, you should at least think a little bit about what it means and all that. But without wasting much more time, business models explain how firms create and capture value. So basically, in any business, when you want to create a new product, you have to create a product within the business model canvas, which I'm going to explain a little bit later. But then I was more told that you guys are dealing with NGOs, so I did one with an NGO. I'll deal with that later. Yeah, that's basically what you need the business model concept for, to understand and communicate your business logic. For an example, innovating and designing and changing business activities within your corporation or your business, and simulating and patenting of the design of a business logic. This is when you already have a business that is in operation. And the enabling measurement, analysis, evaluation, and inter-firm comparison for business logic. So all of these elements are only when you have already an existing business, and I suppose some of you already know what is an existing business. And also if you want to improve, I think this was the last point, if you want to improve what you already have within your business, you can use a business concept model. But a business model, oh, sorry, I can go back. I have too many slides, that's why I'm rushing. I have almost 80 slides, so you have, yeah, I have so many slides, that's why I'm rushing a little bit faster. Basically, a business concept or a business model is completely different from a business plan. Do you know the difference? What could be the difference?
Business plan, the business plan is what will you do within your business, and business model is actually how you work.
Yeah, the business plan is mostly a traditional document that deals with the SWOT analysis, the strengths, the weakness, opportunities, and threats. Whereas the business concept, it deals with what you're already creating, something new, innovative. If you want to diversify within a company, that's what a business concept or a business model is all about. But a business plan itself is a document that describes a firm's business model, always takes into account the competitive, I think Nicholas mentioned a lot about drivers, or competitive environment that you'll be operating in. It includes finance and financial scenarios in the forecast of your business. But when you talk about startups and already established business, there's definitely two different concepts that you apply, because when you're dealing with a startup, it's mostly unknown. So you don't know what is your business concept is all about, or what is your business model is all about. But when you have an established company, you already know what the business environment or the business characteristics that you have. I have a video that I would like you guys to watch. It's about business model canvas by Alexander, who was the founder of the business model. So basically, what Alex was trying to tell us is that you need only 9 blocks to come up with a new business concept without worrying about how many thousand other things that you usually use when you come up with a business plan. Sorry. When you come up with a business plan, you need a whole list of things, but when you come up with a 9-block business concept, you come up with only 9 things that you need to design your business on. And that's the easier option that I'm going to be talking about today. I don't know how many of you know that Google at some point was considering selling to Yahoo. And think about where Yahoo is today and where is Google, because they didn't have the right business model. So the business model are more important today than what it used to be before. Now, this is the 9th block that Alex was talking about. Firstly, what you need in your business model canvas is the key partners. Who are you going to be partnering with when you start your business? It's most important because those people are going to help you either distribute your products or whatever service that you're offering. You need to know who are your partner. When it comes to NGO, it might be different because then you need people who are volunteering, for an example, or who are donors, for an example. And then you need key activities. What are you selling? What are you offering? In a place like this, I think they do a lot of shelter for students or for kids who don't have places like orphans. You need value proposition. What is your value proposition? What is it that you're offering that is completely different from other offers? Nicholas spoke about this earlier on when he talks about the rivalry. But when it comes to NGOs, mostly it's going to be social value. It's not about the value proposition as you think of in a business concept. It's going to be a social value. You need customer relationship. What kind of relationship do you have with your customer? And you also need customer segment. Who are you offering the product to? Who is interested in the product? Who is going to use it? Who is interested in the service that you're offering? And then you need the channels of distribution. How are you going to reach them? How are you going to reach your target customers? You need key resources. What kind of resources are you going to employ in your business or in your NGO? And you need the cost structure because everything that we do has to do with the cost. There are costs involved in any business. You need to figure out that before you start. And then you need your revenue streams, which is basically how you're going to make money. So this is an easy business model canvas that you can employ. When you have an idea, you want to start something new, you want to start a project, or you want to start a business. It's easy, it's simple. For an example, we're going to use Amazon. I'm sure you all know Amazon. You use Amazon every now and then. Is it easy to use it here or not? It's not easy. Alex, which one is that? Is it a local one? The Chinese one. From Alibaba? From Alibaba. Okay, so let's use Amazon as an example to see how did they come up with their own business canvas model. For an example, for their value proposition, they use online retail shop. Everything is done online. You buy online, you get the product online. And then they do fulfillment by Amazon. They do fulfillment, basically means that they do the processing, the packaging of the product themselves, and they send it out. That's what the fulfillment is all about. So it's done by Amazon. They need the web service every now and then because they use the internet. Their customer segment is usually the global consumer. Well, unfortunately here they're not so much, it's so big, but in other countries they're really big. I use them often. They need developers and companies. In order to get out their product, they need developers who are always looking into the maintenance of their softwares. They need individuals or company needing fulfillment, which is usually the customers, as people. And who is their key partners? They need logistics companies. Companies that will deliver the product from it could be from their factories to the customer, or their hubs to the customer. They need affiliates. Affiliates are influencers. Like now you have influencer as a career, which is something that was not there 20 years back. People who are on Instagram and they have 1,000 followers, and they can write that I got a product from Amazon, and many people will want to get the product. That's what affiliates is all about. And then in your customer relations, you have customized online profile. We create a customer profile. You get 5 to 6 minutes. You're already done with the customer profile, and it stays there on Amazon forever. That's how they maintain their customer relations. And you need recommendation, reviews. When somebody buys something, they usually leave a comment that the product was good or how they got the product, and then that will influence other people who are interested in buying the product as well. The channels, they usually use their own website to interact with the customer, nothing more, nothing less. And they use affiliates, again, bloggers and influencers in order to get the word out there. And they usually use people who are knowledgeable about the application programming interface. And the fulfillment, again, is the processing of the product up until it reaches the customer. And the maintenance, again, is the developer of the website who maintains the website. That's in their key activities. And in their key resources, they need global fulfillment. So if all the customers are satisfied, then the business will keep rolling. And again, they need their IT infrastructure. So basically, Amazon, almost everything functions online. If we had no internet, which was not there 20 years back, 30 years back, internet was not there, Amazon wasn't going to be able to function. When it comes to their revenues, they make money from the sales margin, which is basically when they sell a product, they put a little bit of a margin so that they can benefit money out of that. And also the fulfillment handling process, the whole process when they're handling the product, they make money out of that. And utility, computing fees and all that. When it comes to the cost structure, the marketing, technology behind it, and the content behind Amazon. That's how they get their fixed costs. And also fulfillment. And that's basically how Amazon makes money. Now, going further, I would like to talk about how do you then apply or the fundamentals of the business modeling itself. Because the reason you have to do that, it's mostly because 9 out of 10 startups fail because they don't understand the business canvas model or they don't use it appropriately. They say when you have 58 products, this is what venture capitalists believe in. When you have 58 new products, one will be successful. I don't know how true that is, but if you have 58 ideas, one is likely to be successful and others will fail. So you have to put that into mind when you start a new product or a new venture. Why is that the case? I can go back if you want to take... Are we allowed to share the slides afterwards, Nicholas? Do we share the slides or... Because I think they're taking pictures. Okay, I will share the slides afterwards. Why is that the case? Because people use startups, or startup is a small company that is starting up out of nothing, right? People use startups as smaller version of big companies, which is not the case. Because a startup is basically based on unknown and guesses and assumptions that there is a customer need for a product that I'm coming up with. I don't have any tested proof, any hypothesis that is proven that there is a need for that product. So if you treat a startup as a big company, then you're likely to run into challenges. For an example, we use WebVan. I don't know if you know WebVan. No? Okay, WebVan, I will explain what is WebVan. WebVan is a startup that was established in 1996 in the US during the dot-com blaze. It was intending to sell veggies and normally the grocery stuff online. So it has already hired the managers and everything. It already burned about 400 million euros venture capital, so they got money to run the product. And only 24 months after they went public, they went bankrupt. So after that, just imagine, after putting 400 million euros, the company goes down. Because they didn't understand that a startup was only based on guesses and assumptions than the actual customer characteristics that is out there. So I'm going to use the WebVan as an example to explain further. Now, in the 20th century, most companies were using the traditional management model in order to come up with a new product, which was basically you come up with a concept or a starting capital, and then you put on the product development, you go to test the product, and then boom, you go launch it. That's usually what the traditional business plan goes like. But then, they did that because they already know the customers, and they could, at the time, determine the product characteristics in advance. And they know that the market is stable and well-defined. And they know what the competitors are like, which is not the same as a startup, because as a startup, you don't know any of this. You haven't been to them, you didn't go outside of your building and test the customer. You're still working on your own assumptions about what is needed out there. Now, there are 9 deadly sins that Webvan went into. Basically, the sin number 1 was assuming that they know what the customer wants, which is not right. You have to get out of the building and go ask people, what is it that you really want? And then only then you can design the product that people want. Here, you have orphans who need shelter, then they came up with the orphanage, or the place to host the orphans. To succeed, founders need to get out of the building and ask customers and build on their needs. So you only build the product based on what is needed out there. Deadly sin number 2 is to know what you assume, to know what features to build on a product, which is likely to be flawed concept. It is essential to constantly be in contact with the customers while you develop the product, so that you can adjust it, you can modify it based on what is needed out there, instead of just assuming that this is what is needed. Deadly sin number 2 was focusing on the launch, because again, as traditional business plans, they focus on the launch of the product instead of on the process in between. And they lose the touch with the customers. They don't know what the customers want. They come up with a product and they go launch it, and they burn quite a lot of money without getting any return on investment. For example, the rapid growth of the Webvan strictly followed the milestones that were put on the traditional business plan, but the startup didn't take into account the actual figures of the customers who will need or who will use the product. Deadly sin number 4 was to emphasizing execution instead of testing, learning, and interaction. So basically, they went on to the product launch without testing the product itself or without testing the market. If they actually thought they had 8,000 customers when they only had 2,000 actual customers. But in the business plan, they estimated that they're going to get 8,000 customers. But you can see the difference between 8,000 and 2,000 customers that they actually got, which means they're not going to generate as much money as they thought they would. Webvan hired mostly directors from other companies that were already existing. So remember, these directors that are coming in, they're coming in with their own experiences from already established companies. But Webvan was just a startup, was not an established company. So surely the skills that they're transferring are not applicable to a startup. Deadly sin number 5 was writing a traditional business plan that does not allow for trial and error. Because usually traditional business plans, once they're there, the milestones are already set, they're not changed, they are not modified. They're just going to be followed to the letter. But then you run out a risk of coming up with a business plan that doesn't actually fit into the product developmental stages. For example, Webvan did not have a milestone that said, pause a little bit, wait and see what is happening. As I said earlier, they actually had 2,000 actual customers instead of the 8,000 planned customers. Now, deadly sin number 6 is confusing traditional job titles with a startup's needs. Some startups will even have group CEO. How do you have a group CEO if you don't have sub-companies? You don't have sub-branches. You can't have group CEO if you don't have little mini groups underneath. Because a startup only needs somebody who has the ability to easily learn from their mistakes, their agility, they are curious and ready to learn, they are flexible to switch between fields. And the CEOs that were hired by Webvan were already coming from an established company, as I said. So they didn't have any of the 4 criteria that is required by startup leaders. Deadly sin number 7, executing a sales and marketing plan. Webvan quickly went to generate huge numbers of customers without taking into consideration the extremely exit rate by the customers, from the 8,000 estimated to 2,000. They didn't take that into consideration. They just went in, got money, let's go run the business, boom. There's nobody who's buying the product. Then there's no revenue that is generated by the company. Hence, it went bankrupt. Deadly sin number 8, prematurely scaling your company based on the presumption of success. This is when you try to go bigger and expand the company before you actually get the customers. How would you then have 2 more other branches if you don't have the need for that? Then you're likely to collapse and fail. Webb Van Hesley attempts on scaling led to mistakes being acknowledged when it was already too late, because they went bankrupt in 1999 from 1996. So deadly sin number 9, which is the last deadly sin that they kind of like went into, was management by crisis, which leads to a death spiral. Here we find that managers often consider the problem solution, although the problem is much more profound. So they kind of like downplay the problem that they have and hoping that it will change at some point. Things will get better, the business will make money. Instead of realizing that there is a problem, fix the problem. Business canvas model will allow you to iterate that, to modify the problem. But the traditional business plan won't allow you to do that. That's why Webvan went public in 1999, but continuously it was in red in their finances. Now, what do you do to avoid all the deadly sins? Use the learn approach and customer development. Not only in startups, you can use that in your relationship. Try and see if you can use business model in your relationship to modify some of the anger between your girlfriend or your boyfriend. You can try and do that. Let's see if next time when I come here, you have the business canvas model based on the relationship and present that. You can try it in many other things. Because you don't need a perfect plan. You just need a functional plan. As long as if the plan is there and it's functional, then you are likely to win. Now I have a video about Steve Blank, who's known for telling us entrepreneurs, or those who consider themselves entrepreneurs, to go get outside of the building and talk to the customer. So basically what Steve Blank tells us is that you can't come up with assumptions about what customers want. You have to get out of the building. This is an exercise that we usually do with students at the university. During the class, we let them get out. They go outside and figure out what kind of idea they have, and they talk to people. And they come back with some examples on what people really want. And most cases, it's not exactly what they thought people want. So you can do this even if with some of the people who are working at universities. Try this method. Go tell them to get outside, try the ideas, come back and see if it works. Because they're likely to get a whole different scenario than what they went out with. So, now the good thing about the lean approach is that you can change it. You can change anything about it instead of a traditional business plan, you know. It lowers the customers and market risk. You find the business model which is viable. When you go outside and figure out what is really needed, then you validate your assumptions. You kind of get the answers to your hypothesis. And that's the most important thing about the lean approach. As I said, you don't need a functional plan A. I mean, you don't need a perfect plan A, you need a functional plan A, which will be at least replicable and scalable. And it will surely be iterated and learning quickly before resources are exhausted, before you lose money, before you went bankrupt like Webvan that burned out 400 million euros. You can actually save a lot of money by going back and figure out what is really needed in the market. As Steve Blank said, get out of the building and meet the customer. Use the business canvas model every now and then in almost every aspect of your life. There are 3 principles in the learn approach. 1, you document your plan. So you have the 9 blocks, as I showed you earlier on, and then you start documenting almost everything about it, about the idea that you have, so that you can validate it before you go outside. And then you have to identify some risk based on certain aspects of it. For example, when you have the minimal viable product, you can start asking questions from the problem solution fit. Do I have a problem worth solving, for example? Is the problem really worth solving? Here at this center that we're at, there are children homes or who don't have parents, that's a problem worth solving. You can come up with a solution about it. That's what they did. Is it a must-have? Is it a must-have problem? Is the product that you're coming up with, is it a must-have? Does somebody need it? You know? Do customers pay for it? Are you going to make money out of it? Here, unfortunately, the kids don't have to pay, donors pay. That's something that you have to consider, depending on the kind of business that you are in. Can it be solved? Because you don't want to come up with problems that are huge, that are going to cost money, but you can't really solve them. That's why you need a business model canvas. In the product market fit, you have to ask yourself, have I built something that people really want? Because there are people who are building things that nobody uses. There are some products that are starting in Silicon Valley, they never make it outside. They end up there. How can it be optimized? And when it comes to raising capital, how can growth be accelerated and automated? How are you going to enlarge? How are you going to expand? And the third one, test and revise your plan systematically. Don't just sit down with one plan and think you're done, this is it, you made it, you nailed it, you're making money. You need something like that before you start. You need to document your plan A. The plan A will be usually mostly based on 58 products that we said, or 58 ideas that we said earlier on. You need 1,058 ideas and then you scale them down to one. Identify the riskiest part of your plan. If you don't identify that, then you're likely to fall into traps by thinking that you don't have any risky part of the plan. And then you systematically test your plan itself. That can be understanding the problem itself. You can see you're already starting to have some green because you're starting to find some solutions. Define what are the solutions, you know, of the product or the service that you want to offer. You can validate it qualitatively. You can go talk to people, do interviews, but then numbers matters the most. That's when you verify it quantitatively. The third part of my presentation will be applying the learned business model itself. When and where do you have the best ideas? That's a question. When and where do you have best ideas? Just think a little bit. In the shower? I've had Elon Musk take longer than 4 hours shower sometimes to get ideas. You know Elon Musk?
You are in a situation where you're missing a product that would fulfill your necessity, and then you realize it's not in the market and you come up with one.
So in a shower you might need a shampoo. You don't have shampoo? And then you come up with the shampoo?
I don't know, when there is a certain need that you feel.
No, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. So it can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a certain place. It can be anywhere. As long as if you see a niche, there is a gap for what you need, or there's a gap for the product that you're coming up with, or the idea that you have, then go for it, wherever you are. Because Steve Jobs said, creativity is just connecting things. We usually say you connect the dots backwards. You can't connect the dots going forward. Only then you realize that you need the product, or this is what you need. Think about Apple. It was a market pull or market push. It was a market pull. We were all pulled to Apple. It was a need that we didn't even know that we had. To have a phone without the keyboard. And most of us, I'm sure statistically, if I ask you how many people use an Apple here, you might find that majority of you are using an Apple. That's something that we didn't know that we needed. But now we're all using it. But he connected quite a lot of dots. Because Steve Jobs was completely a different species of human being. He studied calligraphy. He went to visit Xerox. That's where he got an idea to revolutionize the computer industry. He studied the Four Seasons Hotel to come up with his customer development for Apple. And he meditated with an Indian ashram. And he connected with people from different backgrounds. That's why he came out with the best product. I have another video that will be more of an activity. I don't know if I should do this instead of showing the video. Maybe we should try this as an activity. So let's try this as an activity. Don't show it yet. Let's do it this way. We want to challenge assumptions. It won't work? Okay, it won't work. Let's play the video then. Okay. Let's play the video. So 2 lessons from there. Firstly, people can be creative anytime because they were just told to come up with their group of birthday without talking. And they were all creative. They came up with an idea. But then the second thing that you can learn from that is that people always go for the first option. They don't go for the second or the third one. They always prefer the first one. Why is that the case? I don't know. The fruits that are lower hanging in any tree are usually not the best ones. So why do they then go for the first option if the lower hanging fruits are not the best ones? You know? It's an intuition type of a thing, or it's just an instinct? I can explain that. But it's hard to go beyond that. To go the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth option. That's why we recommend that you come up with 58 ideas before you get the first one. That's very crucial. Because the first one might not be the best one. You need at least other 57 ideas before you can nail it. Now, there is a clipping method. I don't know if you know it already. He uses 5 W's and 1 H, basically trying to come up with new ideas, to be creative. What is the problem is the first W. The second one is where does the problem occur? The third one, when does the problem occur? Why did the problem occur? Who is affected by the problem? And how does the problem show itself? For an example, you can think about what is the problem? My luggage is heavy. Let's say I'm traveling, I'm from France. My luggage is heavy. Where? I'm at the airport. I'm realizing that my luggage is heavy. I'm at the airport. When? When does the problem occur? When I have wine inside my luggage, which I didn't have before going to France. Why? It's because now I bought wine. Instead of just asking them to send it through courier or via Amazon, for example, you can buy it via Amazon instead of carrying your heavy luggage. Who is affected by the problem? Of course, me and the company that sold me the wine. They have to be involved in resolving the problem. How will it be resolved? Only when the wine gets home. That's when I know that the problem is resolved. And that's how you can use the clipping method. So if you don't mind, I would like you to take at least 5 minutes in a group format and come up with your 5 ideas that can be used using the 5W and the 1H. 5 minutes. Is that a problem? Can that be done? 5 minutes break, you come up with an idea, you write it down based on the clipping method, and then when you come back, we're going to discuss them. So I'm going to rush through the last part of my presentation, which is lean canvas for NGOs. How do you apply lean canvas model for NGOs? Basically, you use again the same concept, which is nice building blocks, and you have key partners, which you have to think about again, who are our key partners and the key suppliers of whatever product or service that we want to offer, and which resources are acquired from the partners, and who will fund us, who are we going to get money. And for example, you can come up with strategic alliance, you can come up with marketing alliance, you can come up with donors or philanthropists who are more interested in the work that you're doing, or who have money, like Bill Gates and Melinda Gates. They have money to fund quite a lot of environmental and health issues. Beneficiaries, so instead of having customers on the NGOs, you have beneficiaries. Who are you doing it for? Who are you creating the value for? Mostly it can be volunteers, participants, collaboratives, advocacy, donors, and members. And the social value, here you create a social value, you don't create a value proposition. What problems and services do we deliver? What problem or challenge are we trying to solve? What value do we deliver to our stakeholders? This can be training like this, it's also a training program. It can be networking if you use it for networking purposes. And you can have questions like channels, how do you then reach your stakeholders? It can either be newsletters, it can be online, it can be mobile, it can be on Instagram now, because everyone is on Instagram. And how do you capture value? You don't create revenues with an NGO, you usually capture value. That's basically the stakeholders, what are they willing to put in return? Mostly donations, they are able to put grants in making NGO run successfully. The social impact that you have, as it is here in this case, and the membership, people will likely become members of your NGO. And cost structure, definitely you will have costs related to the running of your NGO. Mostly it's unavoidable, like operational expenditure, like Irina surely needs to get paid month end, although she's doing it passionately out of her heart. And then administrative costs, fixed costs that you can run away from. And the key resources, which basically means what are the key resources to